So when looking at these inverse trig derivatives, really you only have to remember three of these. If you look at inverse sine and inverse cosine, they're exactly the same with one exception. Inverse cosine has a negative. If you look at inverse cosecant and inverse secant, they are the same except the inverse cosecant has a negative. And, oops. And our last one, inverse tangent, inverse cotangent, are the same except inverse cotangent has a negative. So really, if you can remember three of them, you remember the other three just by putting the negative in front of them, right? Notice the C's, the cosine, cosecant, cotangent, those are the ones that are negative, kind of like with our regular derivatives. So it's not as bad as it looks. But these are ones that you're going to need to remember in order to do well on the test. So let's take a look at some examples here. Number one, inverse cosine of 3x squared. So this 3x squared, that's our u. So inverse cosine, we just did that one. I'll look back up here. It's negative 1 over square root of 1 minus u squared times the derivative of u. So just times the derivative of that inside part with respect to x. So our derivative, we get 1 over square root of 1 minus 3x squared squared. Now the whole thing is squared. Be sure you remember that for these problems. It's not just the variable that's getting squared, but the 3 as well. And then we have to multiply by the derivative of 3x squared, which is 6x. So we end up with 6x on top over square root of 1 minus 9x to the 4th. And that's it. You cannot simplify this to 1 minus 3x squared, right? Even though these are like perfect squares, each of these, it doesn't work that way with that subtraction there. We can't simplify the square root that way because 1 minus 9x squared, or 1 minus 9x to the 4th is really like 1 plus 3x squared times 1 minus 3x squared. It's not 1 minus 3x squared squared. So this is as far as we can get this one. We don't have to rationalize it. We can just leave it as it is.